Hi there, and welcome to Lesson 7, Managing Cash from Financial Fitness for Life. My name is Robert de Grouchy. I am a middle school CTE teacher in the Clover Park School District. I'm also an FEPPP Financial Fellow and part of the Executive Committee. It is my pleasure to show you how I use this lesson in my classroom. So, before we get into this, I want to let you know that all of the materials that you need are located in the Council for Economic Education Financial Fitness for Life. This is the middle school version, and I have both the teacher guide and the student version as well. And we're going to be going over those and showing how we use that in the classroom. So let's go back here. Now they're using the state standards, and if you watch one of my previous videos, we go over these. You can find these on the FEPPP website. So you can find those here on the website, located down here. You can get the learning standards or look at the standards by individual grade band as well. So the competencies that we're looking at are Competency 6, financial decision making. Students will apply reliable information and systematic decision making to personal financial decisions. And also Competency 1, spending and saving, applying strategies to monitor income and expenses, plan for spending, and save for future goals. So kind of, as I teach you this lesson, what are the big picture ideas? In my classroom, this is part of a unit that I teach about financial responsibility. It's kind of embedded into our CTE curriculum, career choices, career planning. One thing to teach our kids, especially at a young age, and remember I'm a middle school teacher, so I'm teaching this to my 7th and 8th graders, that financial responsibility is possible for anyone. Their current financial situation, so my district is a high poverty school district. Teaching kids that their current financial situation doesn't necessarily determine their future situation. There's a lot of things that are involved when this comes into my classroom after learning about careers, they can make some choices regardless of where their income is at to help make good financial decisions. The idea of wealth creation versus consumption is a big thing in my classroom, and also the idea, so there's a great book that I love called Scarcity. These are both of the authors here, and they talk about the amount of energy you can put in different areas. It's called, they refer to it as bandwidth, but when kids can know more about finances and how they make financial decisions, it gives them the opportunity to spend some more time in other areas. So those are kind of like the big the big ideas in my classroom when I'm teaching about financial literacy. I really want my kids to be money smart. I give them an idea. One thing we always talk about is the Best Buy credit card, and this would have been Sears when I was a kid. But just because you get the offer to be able to purchase a big ticket item, I always talk about buying an Xbox for $500. If it's sitting at 29% interest, that can end up costing you a lot more in the long run. We talk about the idea of payday loans and how that can impact you with those high interest rates. We also teach kids about compound interest. And for us, it's really, so in my particular classroom and with discussions that I have with my other teachers as well, we talk about investing in the S&P 500 and the returns over time. So if you're teaching finance, these are some basic things. And also too, just from a civic standpoint, when you invest in the market, you're investing in America, as we like to say. So there's some nice things that you can do there, and it's something that is available to all of our students, especially if they plan early and they're making some good choices on that. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to email me. So the objectives for this lesson, these are also located in your teacher guide right here for managing cash, or to distinguish between fixed, variable, and occasional expenses. Also the idea of planned versus unplanned expenses. How do you record and analyze expenses? Okay. There's a lot of different methods for it, but how are you going to record that? In my particular classroom, we use Excel to do that. So there's some other embedded skills that are part of my classes that I teach. I teach a variety of different CTE courses, but if I'm teaching students to use Excel, for example, this is a great way to make those go in together. If I'm doing and I teach design tech and DigiTools and a variety of different courses. If you're a CT teacher, you're familiar with those. But kids can also plan out, like, if they're doing a 3D model, what the cost per square foot is for something. So those are some other mathematics skills that kids can learn when they're learning about financial literacy. Developing a spending plan and evaluate how well the spending plan, how do you keep it? Is it based on the expenses that you have and the income that you have? So there's a lot of vocabulary in here. Again, these are all located so in two different places. You're going to have your teacher guide here, and then you also have your student guide as well. So these PDFs are all included in the workbook. And, you know, I pick and choose which ones I'm going to include with my students. Like, I'll be completely honest with you. For a lot of my kids, this is, I try not to have the reading or the math be something that limits my kids' ability to do this work. So when I teach my courses, I could have a high number of kids who have IEPs in reading or in computation or things along those lines. So, you know, figure out what works best for your students. If you present it in a PowerPoint, you can. You don't necessarily need to give all of this work to your kids because you don't want this to be something that hurts them. Now, what you do need to teach them is the vocabulary. Now, this is in the student guide as well, and it is also located on my PowerPoint. But these are the pieces that you can go over with your kids. So fixed expenses are ones that remain basically the same month to month as you're an adult, like a car loan payment. Occasional or periodic expenses, ones that happen a few times a year. I don't know if you're going to necessarily go into property tax. That's out of the teacher guide, but things like, you know, I need to buy a present for my mom on her birthday, or things like that. Opportunity cost is a really big thing that I push in my class. What's the next best alternative that's given up when a choice is made? So it's an either or proposition. If I make this purchase, then that means that I'm not buying something else instead. One of the things that I use is if I go to McDonald's and I'm going to make a decision about what I'm going to purchase, do I get a large size? Do I get, you know, if I get a fillet of fish, then what did I give up to get that? And then you can apply that into other areas as well. But when kids start thinking in terms of what's the opportunity cost for the purchase that I made, we're doing our job. Periodic income is not something that you're going to get regularly. Okay, that's something like gifts, part-time job, things along those lines. Planned expenses, spending you can expect for and which you can plan for. Okay, and for kids, this might it's you know, these are esoteric things. So trying to put in things that they know that they might spend every month. Like, for example, if they themselves are responsible. So I'm giving you from my own personal experience being a teacher. If they know that they themselves are going to pay their parents for their Xbox Live subscription, and it's $10 a month, so that's like a planned expense. Okay. A spending plan is a plan for how you're going to manage your income and expenses. What are the trade-offs when I give one thing up for something else? So if I'm going to use my $10 and go out and eat with my friends at McDonald's, and that means that's $10 that I'm not putting towards saving for a new video game. Unplanned expenses, spending for an emergency, an urgent need, or an impulse purchase. So let's say that video game that you wanted was $60 and you have $50 sitting in your piggy bank, which most of my kids wouldn't have, but if you had $50 sitting in your piggy bank, and the price goes down to $20, is that something that I should buy now because of the cost savings? That's some of the things that we can think of here, where you can think of what are the trade-offs that you're giving up, what are the opportunity costs, and then variable expenses that change from month to month. How much are you spending on, let's see, so let's say you're let's say that you play a sport, like you play baseball or whatever else, and you need a batting glove that you're going to spend out of your own money. Like, how much does that batting glove cost? How often do I need to do that? So different expenses can change from month to month, depending on different things. One thing for some of our kids that they spend money on is how much are you spending on, you know, different games on your phone. What does that add up to? And those are things that they can look at if they are spending that money in that way.